a free arcadey PUBG that's a huge pro.
I'm Rutledge.
And I'm Chevy.
Go ahead, strap in, pick your LZ, and get ready for another round of the Royale, as this week we're dropping into Ring of Elysium. So let's jump into it.
I kind of want to start off with the spawn-in mechanic, because this one actually has a different one than the ones we've seen in most of the other Battle Royales, where, it starts you off in this giant gridded map of the world, and you get to actually select the exact square you want to go down to, and you get to see where everyone else is choosing as well.
Yeah, and that's actually something like you and I have been talking about for months. Like, how cool would it be if you could just pick exactly where you're going to drop?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess the difference in this one is it's not like a blind drop. So, on the map, you can see where everybody else is going. Now, a hardcore mode would be dope.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just like it. It's one of those things like, this is where I'm going to go. And that's where I'm starting. It's not you're jumping out of a plane and, oh crap, I missed my drop zone.
Yeah, it takes a little of the randomness out of it, which is actually a nice change of pace compared with all the rest of them, where you're like, you jump into a match and you're like, I have no idea, if I'm able to land in the place I want to go for or anything. Like this one, I'm going here. I can see there's about 3 or 4 squares lit up around me where people are probably going to be, but it kind of fuels into that other big change is this game starts you off with a gun, which is a pretty massive change compared to all the other BRs where you have to, find everything on site.
Yeah, I guess that was one of the things that surprised me a lot too, was you've got the 3 kits. So it's glider, snowboard, and then the climbing.
Yeah.
And then each one you start with a gun and a med kit, or not a med kit, bandages. Like you said, it completely shakes up the start of the game. Like, I think one of the last games we played yesterday or the day before, rather than just like going into any buildings or picking up weapons, somebody just charged at us with their pistol.
Yeah, it definitely, if you want that like hot drop feeling, someone's going to be north of you because you can see someone pick the square ahead of you. If you want to just charge straight towards them with your gun, you can. If you want that instant action, it's really a nice change of pace instead of the, oh crap, am I going to land and find a gun, or is he going to get the gun first? It takes all that out. The only variation you now have is, do I want to start off with this shotgun kit or, have a Glock and, just have a single clip with that.
It's made things interesting because we've definitely made different decisions as a duo at the start of games than we have in like PUBG or Fortnite or some of the other ones we've played, because it's like, oh, we have a gun. Like, it's not like, oh, gotta find a weapon and, we'll be fine. It's no, okay, I feel reasonably certain I can just charge into this building and be okay.
And I think it kind of fuels again towards its overall feel, which is it's basically like an arcadey version of PUBG. There's no real way around that. Like, it feels like PUBG. It feels like they were going to aim at that market, except to be just a little bit more casual, which is not a bad thing in this case.
And I mean, even the guns kind of touch on that a little bit, I guess, too. It's realistic, but it's not hyper realistic like PUBG to a frustrating extent.
Yeah, like things have bullet drop off. There's some spread as you hold down, but it isn't so realistic that it becomes a constant annoyance. You can run and gun and still feel like you're not getting gypped by someone having a hit scan weapon. On the other end, it's still all physics-based weaponry, which is nice.
I think that the cool thing is, so you have the 3 climbing kits, right? You have the glider and the snowboard and the climbing, and we tried all of them over the last week or so.
The snowboard was the thing that ultimately, when I first saw this, I said, oh, it's a BR game that has a snowboard? I want to play that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you would think that it would just be this goofy little gimmick that didn't have a huge impact on the gameplay, but I think that some of our victories, or some of the times that we took down enemy teams, it was simply because of the kit that we had.
Yeah, I remember there was the one game where we finally tried out the glider, and it's nearly last circle. Helicopters come in, groups are charging that helicopter, try to get those seats, and we just glide right up behind a bunch of people, start taking them out, and it put us in such a nice tactical spot, and it's not something you would be able to do in any other BR. You just glide right in.
Yeah, and then the climbing kit, we're getting to the top of mountains and taking people down below us, and the snowboard, I guess, is the only one that we never really found a good use for. So I mean, it's good if you need to get away quickly on a medium to a long slope, but
Yeah.
in the flatlands, it's completely useless to you.
Yeah, I think the snowboard, while being the thing that made me try the game, it's in a bad spot right now just because there isn't enough places to use it without, running into something or just not getting fast enough to make it worth it that you couldn't just take a car or a glider.
There's just so many nuances to all of it because you've got the climbing kit that allows you to scale certain walls throughout the map, and then you've got the ascender or whatever that lets you go up
Zip
the
line.
cables. Yeah, the zip line. That lets you go up and down zip lines, and you can switch the direction you're going on the fly.
Mhm.
Which is really cool, but it just adds that extra layer of complexity that it's not just, okay, I can get around by running, I can get around on a car, or that's it. It
Or
adds like
ski
that whole
lift.
third, yeah, or the ski lift. Yeah, I forgot about the ski lift. I hopped in that and I was like, yep, I'm never going to use this. But
No, but
it's just a cool thing to have.
it's fun that it's there and that you
Yeah.
can shoot out of it. It kind of fleshes out the world a little bit because it's this, ski resort type thing where some sort of massive snowstorm is coming in and you're trying to escape. So it's like the fact that there are ski lifts and, a snowboarding competition place. Like it fleshes out the world a little, because the world is very samey. You can definitely see they copied a lot of the building styles and just kind of threw them across the map. So that's a bit of a negative there, but it still is nice to have these little things to shake it up.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of that, like world building too, I think we didn't figure it out until like late this week, but they have like newspaper clippings and like journals and stuff just littered throughout the world that you can read that like explains a little bit more about what's going on. And I thought that was just like a weird oddity that was also really cool.
Yeah, it feels like a remnant of some other game that was in there, but it certainly fleshes out and it's nice to have in there. It's just kind of a nice thing if you're got some downtime and you feel like reading one of the newspapers and want to risk not getting shot, go for it.
Yeah. It's always the small things that kind of make games stand out for me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, in this market, you got to do what you can to stand out, and those little lore elements, and all of the snow theming stuff, just sets it apart from something like a PUBG or a Fortnite.
And I mean, even looking at like the weaponry was interesting. So I mean, the guns aren't anything special. It's nothing we have to go like too in depth on.
No,
But the way you interact with the guns is like just miles ahead of a lot of other games. In that, if I'm holding an SMG, I don't want this SMG anymore. I want that one. If I pick it up, it migrates all the attachments to the one that I'm picking up.
yeah, they cut out a lot of that inventory management that you have from PUBG,
Yep.
where if you want to switch it, it'll just switch over your attachments, and it's such a convenience feature that I know if we ever go back to PUBG, it's going to be so annoying to have to go like, oh no, I can't drop that. It still has my scope on it, and I got to take it off and put it on the new gun.
And then the scopes too. Speaking of that, it's kind of cool that you can put 2 scopes on each gun, and then you press V to switch between them. So a lot of times I was running around with like a 4X and just a red dot on a LVOA, which was short and close range. Super cool feature.
Yeah, it's super useful, especially if you have like that one gun you love, like the LVOA. It's a good single shot long range. It's also a really good close range assault rifle. So to be able to swap to 2 different scopes as well as the firing styles on a flash, like it's super handy and reinforces that play how you want style.
I mean, I don't have much else to say about the guns. They felt good. They weren't arcadey, but they also weren't too realistic. And everything with the mechanics, I guess, in terms of like attachments is pretty similar to like PUBG. But I just like the removal of attachments and the switching between scopes and everything.
I think the best word I can come up for them is like they're inoffensive. Like while it's
Yep.
a shooting game, they're not the best thing in the game. They're not the worst. They're just there and they get the job done.
Yep.
There are certain things that feel completely broken right now in the bad sense, like they don't work, like the Remington. Could
Oh
not
yeah.
for the life of me, get that one to shoot straight. But the Satori, the double barrel gun,
Yeah.
that one is great, and it's also a starter gun. Again, you got a mixed bag of guns.
Just a couple of like random vehicles too.
Yeah, the vehicles are one of those points where you feel they didn't fully put a bunch of polish into a lot of things to kind of get it onto the market because they are janky.
Like the blue bug.
Yeah.
Oh god, that is not a snow car.
Trying to peter across the snow, and you think you go straight, and all of a sudden it just starts shaking violently. I'm like, okay, this feels a bit off.
None of the cars felt terrible. None of them felt especially great, I should say. I did like the snowmobile, although I was getting like PUBG motorcycle vibes because we kept like killing ourselves.
Yeah, they're a bit loose for what I would imagine for that kind of vehicle, but it's still super fast and got you where you need to go. But it kind of exposes a lot of those vehicles, exposes some more of the rough edges of things that I hope they smooth out over time. That they just feel a bit off.
The big thing was the traversal itself. Just everything about it was interesting. So you had so many ways to move around. With the exception of swimming, which just wasn't great. Don't go in the lake. Because of the way that the map moved. I think that took us by surprise a couple times where we were like, okay, this is going to be the final circle. And then it was just a little bit smaller.
It's not a symmetrical, perfect circle storm thing coming in. They kind of roughly section off parts of the map. And then, I think there's only 4 circles before the helicopter comes in and tries to evacuate 4 people, and it creates that interesting, you don't really know where you're going, or if the kit that you've chosen, if you've chosen like the climbing kit so you can use the zip lines, your zip line route may be cut off suddenly because you didn't expect it to close in that part of the map. It's surprisingly dynamic compared to the other ones.
So yeah, I mean, I guess the last thing we really need to touch on is the win condition of the game, which is it's so unique to battle royales. I mean, Fear the Wolves they're doing it in a similar fashion, but it really just fits the meta of the game. It really works because obviously you're escaping a snowstorm. For those that don't know, you either win by you only win by getting off on the helicopter. I think that even took us as a surprise for one of our last wins where we'd killed everybody else, and we're like, oh wait, we still have to get to the helicopter.
Yeah, while taking damage, you still have to climb the ladder to get in the helicopter. And I watch some streamers occasionally, and I've seen them overestimate themselves. Eliminate everyone else, and then not have the health to get up to the helicopter and just die. Which it creates this nice push for engagement. I think it's near the 3-minute mark at about 10 people left-ish. This helicopter comes flying in, it puts on the map where it is, and so everyone's forced over to engage because you don't want to be the camper that all of a sudden loses his spot because 4 of the people took the risk and jumped on way before you ever got there.
It's a little bit of time management. It's a little bit of like, you need to be in a good position because there's 10 people left. At least 1 or 2 groups are going to try and climb that ladder thinking, oh, maybe I can get away with nobody shooting at me. It's not going to happen. Be in a good position to take them out. But then from there, it's kind of a standstill while people move around and figure out where other people are. And
even the game's mechanics itself force that idea that someone has to make a move, because right before the 1-minute mark, it shows everyone on the map. So if you're trying to play it slow, play the camper, the game's going to expose where you're at, and you're not going to have a chance.
Yeah, it's such a brilliant way to do it because you've got that battle royale, I gotta kill everybody, but at the same time you've got to think strategically about how am I going to get on this helicopter. Am I going to have enough time? Am I going to have enough health? It makes it a much more interesting ending than like you've got 4 people prone in a field waiting for somebody to make the first move.
Yeah, it's a quick ending, which is something I like. Like you just hit on, the PUBG endings are very much slow. If you don't get the circle, you're kind of screwed. You have to make the move, and the other people are just going to take you out. This one everyone's pretty much on a level playing field as far as everyone knows where they have to be. They know how many seats are left on the helicopter, and they know how long before they start taking damage and how much health they have. So all the variables are there. It's just who plays best at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, and it works so great. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they come out with throughout the dev cycle, because it's still very early in its release stage.
Yeah, but it is, it is obviously free to play, and that'll help its being sustained for a while now. I think it's, got 35,000 concurrent at the moment.
Yep, 35,000 concurrent, and it's free. It's propped up by crates, which similar to PUBG, it's all cosmetics. So I don't know if they're on the Steam store or not, though. I haven't actually checked.
I'm not sure on that one either, but also propped up by Tencent, the people behind PUBG, who obviously have a vested interest in making Battle Royale a thing to stay for a while.
Exactly. And I just checked, it is not on the Steam store. So that's interesting, because you can pay for more crates and things like that if you really want to be styling. And it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, because obviously it's a free-to-play game. You're relying heavily on microtransactions for your revenue stream to pay for those servers, to pay for everything. So very curious to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, same.
I guess now is the time that we hop into our 3 pros, 3 cons, and then kind of give the game a verdict.
Okay, so on my pros list, the first one is just the spawn-in mechanic. Like, it's really unique. I want to see more developers play with that idea of dropping onto an island in a unique way. The loadouts system is interesting, so you can pick some gliders, zip lines, snowboards. Like, that's definitely unique. I want to see what they add in the future to kind of play with that formula a bit. And, it's a free arcadey PUBG. That's a huge pro. I liked PUBG when it came out. I still enjoy it, but it's nice to have something that isn't as serious that I can jump into at times. On the con side of things, it's got a lot of little rough edges, as we touched on. The vehicles are a bit rough. There are a few little bits of jank when you're kind of downed as a player, things like that I hope they get smoothed out over time. The map is kind of plain. Like I said, there's some carbon copy buildings across the entire thing, and it's very obvious. And my biggest con is actually the sound. It has a lot of sound problems right now in this first version. There doesn't seem to be much distinction between someone who is, within 5 meters, who sounds like they're right next to you constantly, or someone who is, outside that range where you can't even tell that they're there. And same with the vehicles. If you're near a vehicle, you're only going to hear that engine sound, and that's definitely a big negative right now, and has got us killed more often than not.
Yeah, one of my pros is pretty much the same as yours. The 3 starting kits, they really provide interesting map traversal, just completely different start and middle to the game. And then the guns do feel really good, if not sometimes a little bit arcadey. And the additional mechanics with the easy swap of attachments and the swap back and forth of scopes, for me has made a pretty big difference in terms of enjoyment, because I'm not spending a good portion of every game doing inventory management. And then the drop mechanics, speeding up the start of the game. You're in that lobby for a minute-ish, choosing your spot, seeing where everybody else goes, and then bam, you are on the map and running. There's no flying through the air, anything extra. You're just straight there, good to go. Con-wise, there's some downing issues. So there's been a couple times where I've emptied a clip into somebody, and then about a second later they then drop. Or somebody and I are shooting back and forth at each other, and we both go down. Which is possible, but it happened more times than I'm used to. And then sometimes scopes just don't feel right. So you know what the drop off is and all that, and then the shots just don't hit. But biggest con is sound. It got us killed more times than I can count, and it's frustrating being in a building thinking that somebody's in the building next to you when in actuality they're in the same building as you. And that it doesn't make the game unplayable, but at times it does make it frustrating.
So I guess as a verdict, at this point we've put in 10 hours, and you know, I'm enjoying my time. You know, like I said, it's a less serious PUBG style game, and I'm completely fine with that right now. It's and with all of these interesting ideas that they've started out with, I'm really curious to see what else they want to kind of throw in there. And so I'll definitely be putting a few more hours into it.
Yeah, I'd say even if it was a paid game, I'd be willing to buy it. It's fun. You know, I like it more than a lot of the time we spent with PUBG, just because in most cases it is a lot faster. It's quick paced. Nothing feels drawn out. You're not consistently standing waiting around for the circle, because everything just, even the circles are fast. The map's big, but because the circle's closing in, you've got to be moving. So there's not a lot of, stand around, do nothing time. Just like you said, all these interesting mechanics make it something that is very worth playing.
And it's free.
Yeah.
There's no risk in trying it. You know,
Exactly.
I think that's one of its greatest things. Just download it and give it a shot.
Yeah, it's well worth your time. You know, we've spent 10 hours in it so far, but we'll probably spend a lot more over the next couple months. So definitely worth your time. Definitely check it out. Definitely, if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next video.